All right, MVP race. I said this at the top of the show. I think there are 4 guys that have kind of separated themselves from the pack, and I don't have Mahomes or Josh Allen in this category here at this point. If they get hot and they start lighting up the stat sheet, they can enter the conversation. But I think the favorite for MVP, and he's tied for the odds-on favorite right now, but the favorite in my eyes is Matthew Stafford. That guy's playing unbelievable football. What is he, 37, 38 years of age? He looks like he could play another 5 years at an elite level. Now, obviously, Brady was kind of joking with him after the game about continuing to play. Well, the reason why Brady was able to play so long is because he didn't get hit, right? Matthew Stafford, you think about all those years in Detroit where he was just getting smacked every single week. So his body's probably not going to be able to hold up there as long. But when you hit a certain point in your career as an NFL quarterback, and it's where all quarterbacks aspire to be, where you hope your body can still hang in there. When you sit there and you're catching the snap and you go, there's nothing that the defense can do that is going to surprise me or catch me off guard. I am at an advantage over the defense every single time the ball is snapped. And Matthew Stafford is in that spot. And he's probably been there for a few years now, honestly. And that's like a guy like Joe Burrow, right? If he can stay healthy and play deep into his 30s, he's going to be this guy there as well. And there's nothing that you can do that can confuse him. And when you pair it with a howitzer of an arm that Matthew Stafford has, you're going to get a really, really good football player. And if the season ended right now, I would vote for Matthew Stafford to win the MVP. I get San Francisco's depleted, right? They were going on kind of a miracle run with all the injuries that they had dealt with, and Shanahan and Mac Jones were still finding ways to win games. Mac, by the way, played well again for the Niners. But at some point, especially when you're going up against a guy like Stafford, an offense like McVay, Devontae looked like he's turned back the clocks a little bit there as well. Like, you're going to get routed, and that's kind of what happened in the game for L.A. But Stafford, to me, tremendous, right? And again, there's a lot of us here in this city that we don't necessarily like him for what transpired in 2021. That's fine. I'm not going to say I've gotten over it, but there's not as much deep negative feelings towards Matthew Stafford now than what I had several years ago. But Matthew Stafford's playing at a high level, incredibly high level. They're running the ball, too, with Kyron, Puka, Devontae, right? I mean, we think it's T and Jamar as that one duo, but Puka and Devontae, man, they're right there defensively. I mean, the Rams are a serious, serious problem. And, Matthew Stafford would get my vote for MVP here at this point. The guy he is tied with is Drake Maye. Yep, we tried to say this was coming, right? Had him at number 1 in our power rankings last week. Oh, but the Patriots, they only beat up on bad teams. Tampa, they're going to win that division, right? And they dominated that game. I understand Tampa had a chance to win it. Drake Maye made a horrible mistake throwing a pick in the end zone. Can't happen. That's just a young player making a dumb mistake. He can't do things like that. And, look, he didn't play great in the game, right? I think he only completed like 50% of his passes, had that turnover, right? He didn't run for a ton of yards. We were used to kind of seeing him run for like 50 yards a game. He didn't necessarily do that, but he showed a lot of toughness, a lot of grit in that football game. And, he's got an incredible record. In my opinion, best team in the AFC here right now, and he finds himself at the top of the MVP odds, and rightfully so. We'll see how, he obviously has to play with Josh Allen again. There'll be some games as this thing gets a little bit deeper into the year. Weather's, continues to get colder, particularly up there in Foxborough. We'll see what he can do. But Drake Maye's the real deal. He's the real deal, and I absolutely love Mike Vrabel. Said this on Off the Bench, how that guy was available. Right? Tennessee let him go. What in the world are you doing if you're the Tennessee Titans? That guy is awesome from a leadership perspective. With the young guys, he had kind of more of a veteran team in Tennessee. Now you got this really young team in New England, and he's just kind of guiding them along, doing a tremendous job. Mike Vrabel is absolutely awesome. And then McDaniels, say what you want, he can't be a head coach in this league. Some people are just meant to be offensive coordinators and play callers. And that's what Josh McDaniels is. And Dan Orlovsky tweeted out yesterday, is like, a lot of elements of this reminds you of Brady. I'm not going to sit here and say Drake Maye is the next Tom Brady. A lot of elements offensively to what they're doing reminds you of the Brady days. Obviously, you have a quarterback that's a lot bit more mobile, and that's certainly different. But it's like, they're not, there's not a lot of negative plays here. There's a lot of first downs, right? Taking care of the football for the most part when they're not making bad decisions. Running the ball well, right? Travion Henderson, how about that? He finally popped off. Gave him, he was toting the rock in that game and ultimately ended up basically winning the game and sealing the game for the New England Patriots. So they're very versatile. They can run it. They can throw it. They can defend. Good special teams. They're coached well. up-and-coming quarterback, and he absolutely deserves this love. We said this a couple weeks in. Keep an eye on Drake Maye being a dark horse MVP guy. You can remove the dark horse from that sentence here at this point. He's an MVP guy, and we'll see. Again, I tip my hat here to Stafford at this point. There's a long way to go here in this thing, but I think Stafford and Drake Maye are kind of at the top of that list. And next is Jonathan Taylor at that running back spot for Indianapolis. What Jonathan Taylor has done is absolutely tremendous. If you got up and watched the Berlin game, he was unbelievable. Was it 240-plus yards rushing, another 40 yards through the air. Kind of, in a lot of ways, reminds you of what Saquon did last year, and obviously Saquon had that year and wasn't able to win MVP, so unfortunately for him, he's probably not going to be able to win the award. But you think about that game with the Indianapolis Colts, I'm sitting there watching that game going, oh, that looks like the Daniel Jones I'm used to. And you look at the stats, and they're not that bad, but Daniel Jones made some old-time Daniel Jones mistakes and decisions in that game, and he got bailed out by what was an incredible run game, an incredible job by Jonathan Taylor. So that's very much the core of what they want to do, Indianapolis. They want to line up, they want to block, they want to run the football. That's very much their identity, and they were able to do that against the Falcons team. And, we sit here and laugh at the Falcons, but that's a solid defense. What they've done defensively, picks through the draft, by the way, Bengals could use James Pierce Jr., right? He was available. You could have taken him. But obviously, the Falcons have done a really nice job there defensively, and Colts didn't have any issues. Ran right through him with Jonathan Taylor, and he's kind of done that for him all year long. With a running back, you question how long can you do it, right? Because remember, Jonathan Taylor I don't remember what that year that was a couple years ago, where he kind of did this, went crazy, and then you go down a little bit. You're not as good for the next year or so, right? As a running back, just kind of the nature of the position. You're seeing it in Philly right now with Saquon. He had this all-world year last year, and now it's not sustainable to do it back-to-back years. But what Taylor's doing right now, he's having one of those all-time running back type years, and he deserves MVP love there as well. And the final guy that I will put on this list is Sam Darnold. And I understand he didn't light up the stat sheet this past week. I didn't watch that game very closely. I went back and watched some parts of it, but you hang 40-plus points, and I'm thinking, Sam Darnold probably racked up the fantasy points for me, and he had like 7, right? So, that their defense scored 2 touchdowns. That defense is outstanding, and they were just basically running it all game with Walker and Charbonnet and just kind of bleeding clock, really. I mean, they just dominated that game start to finish, and, Jacoby made some mistakes early for Arizona, and the Seattle just stepped on him immediately. But what Sam Darnold's done, tremendous, pushing the ball down the field, taking care of the football. He looks like a top 10 guy in the National Football League, and I think he's playing like probably a top 5 guy, as crazy as that is to say out loud. And, if you're Minnesota, you're kicking yourself because you swung and missed on that. You should have kept Sam Darnold around in Indianapolis. Instead, you went with J.J. McCarthy. How's that working out? That guy absolutely stinks. Let's be very direct when it comes to that. But he's kind of that next guy in the MVP conversation for me, Sam Darnold.